Hi, and welcome to the Robinson Lloyd Resiliency Group, where we provide information to help your company get the edge adapting and connecting. Today, I'm very pleased to introduce Dr. Matt, who I had the pleasure of listening to. I thoroughly enjoyed his presentation entitled Living in Shades of Grey, where he shared processes that lead to intensity and inflexibility and behavioral interventions we can employ. This was hosted by the New Jersey Association for Gifted Children, NJAGC. That's NJAGC. I want to thank Mrs. Stacy Reagan, who actually shared the link with me to get this great opportunity. Today, we'd be looking at everyday cognitive flexibility for kids. And I'm going to just read a bio so you could understand how privileged we are to share this space with Dr. Matt. Dr. Matt is a longtime advocate for the underserved needs of gifted kids. Dr. Matt has shaped his career around his passion for serving this population, starting with being a counselor as well as a camper at the Center for Talented Youth summer program as a teenager. Dr. Matt has his own private practice, the Neurodiversity Collective LLC, that offers therapy, consultation, coaching, and assessment. Additionally, Dr. Matt's Facebook page, which I happen to like, has become a fun platform for mental health advocacy and humor. Dr. Matt loves keynoting and speaking at conferences and has proudly done so all over the country and internationally. Trinidad and Tobago, here he comes. He additionally He additionally provides trainings and consultations for businesses and schools to increase supports for neurodiverse individuals of all ages. He previously served as a board member of PAGE, the Pennsylvania Association for Gifted Education, and continues to work closely with multiple state organizations around the country. Dr. Matt received BAs in psychology and communications at Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem, NC. He assisted with research at Harvard Psychophysiology Lab, at the Harvard University Business School in Cambridge, Massachusetts, before making his way to graduate school at Widener University, where he earned his doctorate of psychology, PsyD, from the Institute of Graduate Clinical Psychology. Without further ado, please allow me to welcome Dr. Matt. Dr. Matt?
Thank you. I mean, no matter how many times I hear my bio, it's always like, wow, who's that guy? Who is she talking about, right? It's like when someone sings happy birthday to you, it's like,
Yes.
What do I see in my face? Like, yeah, but I mean, it's so great to be here. I mean, the talks we gave through New Jersey Gifted Association were, I mean, the reach was incredible. It was so much more than any of us had planned. And it's a great reminder that there are so many passionate people and passionate professionals who want to serve this population all over the world. I mean, and yes, Trinidad and Tobago, if you're listening, I will be on the next flight. We'll find the kids if we don't know where they are. I will search every beach. I mean, school.
Listen, we would find them. Don't you worry.
If it takes us all year.
It won't. It will take us one email, I promise you.
Yeah, I love it. That's, oh my goodness. And I mean, it's just, and your energy, your enthusiasm for this, your bravery to just reach out and say, like, can we do this? Can we amplify this message? I mean, just, we're at a moment in time where I think that this is really, we're reaching critical mass with the neurodiversity movement, and we're seeing the amount of good that this sort of stuff can impact teachers, students, mental health professionals, parents. I mean, and the more I do this work, the more I realize that talking to other adults, like, wait, that's me too. And it's like, yes, right. There's a reason
Yes.
that your kid is this way, and let me give you these tools to help yourself. So, so, so let's talk about shades of gray. So I'm going to share my screen. I think I'm required by law to say that in this era of Zoom webinars.
Okay.
There we go. Bloop. Yeah, hooray, look at that. All right. Living in shades of gray, helping gifted kids develop cognitive flexibility. Now, of course, I need to set this up with the joke that I am super colorblind. So while I understand that this picture is shades of gray, often this is how I see the world. So it could be a beautiful sunscape, and I would be like, beautiful, not colors. Okay. So for those of you who are watching this, wherever you are watching this, you are probably familiar with this image, right? This is the sinking of the Titanic, and, you know, a very, very awful, catastrophic thing. You know, this is right around the time where Fabrizio dies, I think, which is just very sad, right? Jack and Rose are at the top of the boat. And I don't think anybody who is seeing this could say that this is a good thing, right? Nobody's looking at this image and going like, there's a good piece of this, unless you were one of the live lobsters in the kitchen. And, you know, and it's intentionally a silly thing, right? But there are always multiple perspectives, right? And now the wreck of the Titanic at the bottom of the North Atlantic Ocean is a incredible reef teeming with life, you know. So yeah, I mean, I don't mean to diminish the tragedy that was the sinking of the Titanic, right? I mean, that's, I hope that doesn't come across that way. But I'm simply saying that in all moments, there are moments of cognitive flexibility, ways to entertain and engage with alternative perspectives that can help us. So what is cognitive flexibility? Cognitive flexibility is the mental ability to switch between thinking about two or more different concepts, and the ability to think about multiple concepts simultaneously. As a therapist, as a psychologist, I often say that if my job is anything, it's about teaching people how to hold two thoughts in their head at the same time. When that process is conscious, it's cognitive shifting. I'm thinking about driving home, and now I'm thinking about what I'm going to make for dinner. I am shifting my thinking from one to the other. Not the, I cannot think about dinner until I get into my drive. I parked my car, turned off the engine. Now what do I want to have for dinner? When it's unconscious, it's task shifting, right? So if you're watching this or listening to this right now, and you're super engaged by how awesome we are, because we are very awesome, right? And then you're like, oh, did I respond to Karen's text? And you flip down to your phone, right? That's an unconscious task shift. It's like, oh, there it goes, taking from one thing to another. And cognitive flexibility is part of the broader suite of executive functioning skills that we want to see in all people, but especially the kids we work with. Now, the neuroscience that supports this is very complex and more than we can do in a relatively brief webinar, but let's unpack the important parts, right? Prefrontal cortex, right here. That's your task manager of your brain, right? That's going to be your executive. It's going to do a lot of behavior management. We also have our basal ganglia. The basal ganglia is about our task-directed behavior. I set a goal, I follow through, I get a reward. Your anterior cingulate cortex. This is the part of your brain that does ethics, morality, and anticipation. So that's where your sense of values comes from. And your posterior parietal cortex, or PPC, that's following through on planned moves, right? You know, in 45 minutes, I'm going to get up from my desk and have lunch. That's your PPC going, hey, remember, in 45 minutes, you got to do this thing. And then it follows through and does the thing. So when we say, hey, Johnny, do this thing, it isn't as simple as Johnny, do the thing. I mean, there's so many parts of the brain that activate and motivate for this sort of thing. And so, and I always share this piece of neuroscience, A, because I'm a brain nerd, but B, because honestly, like, the more we understand about the intense neurological complexity of following directions, the more empathy and perspective we gain to maybe why our kids might struggle with that, right? So why is cognitive flexibility important? I mean, that's why you're here, right? I mean, it's like, well, let's listen to this guy chat right around for 45 minutes. I'm sure it's entertaining. No, it's important. So cognitive flexibility is a major piece of social skills, right? Important perspective taking. When we were setting this up, right? Tanya asked me if we could start this at 8 o'clock Eastern time. And I said, hey, do you mind if we start at 8:15? I have 2 young children. I put them to bed. We aim for 8 o'clock, but it's never 8 o'clock. Tonight it was 8:04, right? Which meant I would have been 4 minutes late to this lovely, lovely internet thing. So perspective taking, the ability to understand that I had a different set of priorities and we could collaborate to find something that worked for both of us. There's also this idea of mentalization or mind reading, the ability to think, what is this other person thinking about? The exercise I often do with my clients, right, is if you're in a room, right, and everybody's sitting comfortably, but there's one person who's sitting like this, what is their body language telling you? And most kids say, well, they're cold. I mean, it's a pretty consistent thing with cold, right? And I say, great. So cold isn't an explanation. What are some other ideas, right? Are they sad? Are they scared? Are they overwhelmed? Do they feel sick? Right? Just the idea of seeing somebody whose physicality is telling you something, giving you a message, putting that thought in your brain and then following through on it it's the function of human behavior, right? I mean, that's why we're social animals, right? But increasing kids' ability to do that, not just walk by that person who's like, duh, right? I mean, oh, would you like my sweater? Right? We can, we could do that. Increasing empathy, increasing understanding. When we empathize, we are better friends, better classmates, better teammates, better family members. And then having a theory of mind. Gifted kids are so myopic in how they think. I think Minecraft is the greatest video game that's ever been created, and I will accept no questions or argument. Thank you. Right? Well, maybe I think Street Fighter 2 is the greatest video game of all time, right? It's a very good game. And here's the thing, my opinion cannot be wrong, right? It's my opinion. I'm allowed to have it. The ability to understand and anticipate that other people can and will have different opinions from you is a major social skill, because you maybe don't want to have a 45-minute conversation about Minecraft with someone who doesn't think Minecraft is the greatest video game of all time. Finding people with whom you share those interests become your people. And it's not that we shouldn't have conversations or connections with people who have different interests. In fact, we totally should. But walking into that, aware of those differences, smooths the runway for a better conversation. And then learning, right? Our kids always are learning, right? All of us learn. And to stay on the video game thing for a second here, I'll say to kids, okay, when you started playing Dark Souls or Mario Bowser's Fury, or fill in the video game here, how would you do the first time you played? They're like, oh, I maybe got through a few levels and I died. Right. How are you at that game now? Oh my gosh, I can do blah, 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 blah. I've leveled up. I have all the things. I 100%ed it. Now I do speed runs for fun. If those words make sense to you, I apologize, but this is my life, and I have to be fluent in speed runs. So what you know now is much different than what you knew then. You're showing cognitive flexibility and your ability to show growth and adaptation to the things you've learned and the skills you have developed. And then we integrate that new information in layers on top of old information. If you live in a small town where there's a Burger King and that is the best burger you've ever had until you go to a bigger city where they have like a proper cheeseburger, now you're integrating that new information. A cognitively rigid person would be like, Burger King is the first cheeseburger I've ever had, therefore it is the greatest cheeseburger of all time. Now listen, if you want to feel that way, namaste, right? I'm here for it. Personally, more of a Wendy's guy, and personally more of a gastropub guy, but we integrate new information all the time. How we integrate it indicates our cognitive flexibility. And lastly, how do we respond to our beliefs being challenged, right? That is, for many gifted kids, such a challenging thing, because when you are myopic about your worldview, you tend to fuse that with who you are, right? My thoughts, my opinions, my learning is endemic to who I am. So therefore, if that stuff is challenged, you're not just challenging that I think that Thomas Jefferson is the greatest US president. You're challenging me, right? And we need to be able to separate those two things to have meaningful, authentic debate. So in schools, right, we show this, and can you show your thinking in another way? The kid who can raise their hand, answer every question, go on and on and on about XYZ, that's valuable. We want to have that in the classroom 1,000%. But maybe we want to encourage that kid to not just lean on that one skill all the time, but to develop other skills, right? If the only tool you're having in your toolbox is a hammer, eventually everything becomes a nail. But there are some problems you cannot talk your way out of. So we want to have other skills, other things you can tap into. And what that shows is that it's an adaptive skill. It's not the smartest among us who will survive. It's those who can best manage it. Those of us who are most adaptable.